I call the Tuesday, February 25th, 2020 meeting of the Portsmouth City Council to order. And I'll ask my colleagues on council to stand with me as our Vice Mayor, Lisa Lucas Burke, leads us in an invocation, and then I'll ask the public to please rise as Councilman Bill Moody leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mayor. Let us bow. All-wise and masterful Father, we thank you for another opportunity to gather as a city council. We thank you for your ever-presence in our life as we conduct the business of this city. We thank you for the citizens who come to hear us to discuss the issues that affect all of our lives. Lord, we pray that you will guide our hearts and guide our lips so that our discussions and our deliberations will be in order with your will for this city. Lord, I pray that this meeting go as you would have it to be, as you have all other things in our life. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item of business is to indicate our presence. We'll have an electronic roll call, and please indicate your presence by hitting the yes button. Madam Clerk, we have 6 present, 1 absent.
Yes, sir.
Our next item is the consideration of the adoption and approval of minutes. We have the minutes of a call meeting of February 7, 8, 2020. We have the minutes of a call meeting of February 10, 2020. We have the minutes of a call meeting of February 11, 2020. We have the minutes of a regular meeting of February 11, 2020, and the minutes of a call meeting of February 18, 2020. We'll consider the adoption and approval of all these with one motion. Is there such a motion? We have a motion on the floor that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes, opposed no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, will you read the protocol for speakers, please?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than to any particular member of City Council, staff, or the audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next item of business is our unfinished business, and the first item is item 20-54, which is the consideration of a resolution that's on a second reading pertaining to a use permit. Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of the resolution, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution granting a use permit UP 1917 to Elaine Harris to convert an existing single-family detached dwelling to a duplex at 1038 Crawford Parkway, tax parcel 36-1200.
Thank you, ma'am. So that we can put this matter before us for our consideration, is there a motion to adopt the resolution?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to item 20-60, which is the consideration of an ordinance that was tabled at the last meeting. So that we can put this matter before us, is there a motion to remove this from the table?
Motion to remove from the table.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. So that we can put this matter before us, I'll ask the clerk to read the caption of the ordinance, please.
Yes, sir. An ordinance to amend and reordain Article 1 of Chapter 6 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia regarding the regulation of vessels in the North Harbor and High Street Inlet and along the Portsmouth seawall by amending Section 6-7 to clarify that the mooring of certain vessels used for the operation of public ferry service be permitted.
So that we can consider this matter as a motion to adopt.
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
We're now at the City Manager's Report, item 20-79, which is a consideration of the adoption of a certain ordinance. Would you read the caption, Madam Clerk? of that
Yes, sir.
ordinance?
An ordinance accepting a grant in the amount, excuse me, of $727,691.94 from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Child and Adult Care Food Program administered through the Virginia Department of Education and appropriating said funds in the FY 2020 Grants Fund for use by the Department of Parks, Recreation, and Tourism to provide meals and snacks authorized under the Kids Meals Program.
So that we can put this matter before us for our consideration, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor that's been made, duly made, and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
We're now at item 20-80, which is the consideration and adoption of another ordinance. And Madam Clerk, will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting a grant in the amount of $1,959 from the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services and appropriating said funds in the FY 2020 Grants Fund to provide funding to operate local probation and pretrial services in the city of Portsmouth.
So that we can put this matter before us for our consideration, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
We're at item 20-81, which is the consideration of the adoption of another ordinance. And will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance, one, accepting a grant in the amount of $70,304.52 from the Office of Emergency Medical Services and appropriating said funds in the FY 2020 Grants Fund budget. And two, transferring $70,304.52 from the FY 2020 Information Technology Fund budget to the FY 2020 Grant Fund budget to serve as the required local match for the said grant.
So that we can put this matter before us for our consideration, is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? We're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. We're at 20-82, which is the consideration of the adoption of another ordinance. And Madam Clerk, please read that caption.
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting supplemental funds from the Virginia Department of Social Services in the amount of $105,000 for the Title IV-E Fostering Futures Foster Care Program and appropriating said funds in the FY 2020 Social Services Fund.
Thank you. So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor, which is to adopt the motion. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Our last item in this section of our agenda is item 20-83, which is the consideration, the adoption of another ordinance. Madam Clerk, will you read the caption, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance accepting supplemental funds from the Virginia Department of Social Services in the amount of $85,000 and appropriating said funds in the FY 2020 Social Services Fund for use by the Department of Social Services to facilitate adoptions and cover the cost of non-recurring adoption expenses.
Thank you, ma'am. So that
Yes,
we
sir.
can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Move for adoption.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
We're at new business, item 20-84, boards and commissions, and we do have some appointments to make. Councilman Moody.
Mayor, members of City Council, move that the following appointments be approved to our Poverty Task Force. Education Subcommittee, Ms. Lynn Briley, Dr. Patricia Fisher, Dr. Hope Sinclair, Mr. George Thompson III. A Committee of Healthy and Thriving Communities, Bishop Frank Allen and Reverend Tom Potter. Workforce Development Committee, Mr. Mark Hugel, Mr. Gary Bahina, Mr. Dan Stevens. Steering Committee, Reverend Kelvin Turner and Reverend John Blackwell.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to make these appointments. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. We come now to item 20-85, items submitted by council members. We have two that's on the agenda. The first relates to adoption of a certain resolution pertaining to the last weather event. And so that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt? And, well, first, will you read the caption of the resolution?
Yes, sir. A resolution confirming a declaration of local emergency due to the threat of a snow event impacting Portsmouth, Virginia.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt this resolution. It's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Glover, do you want to be recognized now or after the next item?
I'll do it now, this part now, if it's
Pardon
okay.
me?
I would like to do this part now, if it's okay.
Sure, go ahead. You have the floor.
Good evening, citizens. I was tasked this evening with providing a Black History moment. This is the last week of Black History, and so if you would bear with me, I would like to proceed as accordingly. In 1997, the Senate Joint Resolution recognized Mr. Junius H. Williams, Jr., and it reads, whereas Junius H. Williams, Jr., a division manager for Virginia Power and a resident of Portsmouth since 1983, was named Portsmouth's first citizen for 1995, and whereas a native of Petersburg, a graduate of Virginia State University, and a veteran of the U.S. Army, Junius Williams has served the Portsmouth community on a wide array of foundations, boards, committees, and whereas long interested in education, healthcare, and economic development, Junius Williams has served as president of the Portsmouth Schools Foundation, as chairman of the board of directors of the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, Portsmouth Division, and as a member of the board of directors of the Medical College of Hampton Roads Foundation Development Committee, the Portsmouth Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and Norfolk Forum. And whereas the first African American to be named Portsmouth's first citizen, Junius Williams has for many years promoted racial harmony and cooperation. Whereas Junius Williams was cited by the First Citizen Sponsoring Committee for his community work on behalf of good government, racial harmony, economic development, the public schools, and healthcare. And whereas Junius Williams, with his range of impressive accomplishments, his dedication to the Portsmouth community, and his willingness to work hard on behalf of his fellow citizens, is a most worthy recipient of the prestigious First Citizen Award. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We now still at item 2085, and we're considering the second item, which is the consideration, the adoption of a certain resolution. Madam Clerk, will you read that caption, please?
Yes, sir. A resolution adopting a policy to govern the allocation of local revenue to Portsmouth Public Schools.
So that we can put this matter before us for our consideration, is there a motion?
Move for adoption.
And we're now ready for the discussion, and the chair recognizes Vice Mayor Lisa Lucas Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking to this item 20-85, we were presented with our funding formula by Ann Seward and the Funding Formula Committee, which represented citizens in the city of Portsmouth and school board members and city council persons as well. So we were presented the findings of that report at a joint meeting of the Portsmouth City Council and the school board on our joint meeting this month. Of course, there was some discussion about the funding formula after the presentation. The liaison, the education liaison, Nathan Clark and myself met with the education liaisons from the school board, Reverend Patillo and also Reverend Clark Parent. And we had what I considered to be a healthy discussion. It was not a contentious discussion as was presented on Facebook. So the meeting, we had our conversations about the professional committee that was put in place that came up with the funding formula that which was done across all of our Hampton Road cities, Norfolk, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and Norfolk, which the formula works well everywhere. And is well received in all of the local other cities. So the conversation was held. We also had a joint meeting with our school board yesterday, and of course their budget needs were presented to us. And of course our mayor asked if there were any other concerns where we thought that maybe some concerns or some questions would be raised at that time about the funding formula. So we heard none, so we proceeded with our council agenda that, everything was fine. So today in lies tons of emails, tons of Facebook posts, tons of conversations about the funding formula, which, were never presented to us until this morning at 9 o'clock, the first one, and then the last one at 4:30. We think that the $55.4 million that is allocated in the funding formula, for those of you who have not had an opportunity to see what the formula presents, it presents what we allocated to the school board last year, which includes the 2.6% raise to cover teacher salaries, all of the Portsmouth school salaries. So that funding this year will be at the $55.4 million. But it also includes a $589,000 increase on top of the $55.4 million. And that amount is scheduled to increase every year more. Of course, in the budget needs that the school board presented to us, they mentioned that their shortfall would be $1.1 million. Well, $55.4 million plus the $589,000 puts them only about $400,000 that they will be in a short fall with that amount. During our education liaison meeting, we discussed some conversation about a meal plan that we brought up last year. I believe it was last year around budget time. And the meal tax would offer a 1% tax if you go out to eat with your family and you're going to have a hamburger, some fries, and a Coke. 1% of that tax. You don't really think about it. You know, you pay your tax, you pay your tip to your waiter, and you go on to the next place. But the 1% would be not just Portsmouth residents paying into that. It would be citizens who work in the city of Portsmouth, who don't live in the city of Portsmouth. They go home to Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Suffolk, Chesapeake, all of those areas. But they eat lunch here or they eat dinner here. They would be helping to pay into that tax. And a percentage of that, what we would want to go back to the school board. And if we're looking at a 1% tax, that would yield about 1.36 million a year. And we want to allocate that to education. A percentage of that is already in the funding formula. So Billy Butts, our assessor, gave a report today which shows that we're above where we should have been or where what was proposed inside of the funding formula. So even our housing stock and our residential rates and even our public housing, where I serve on the PRHA board, is increased. So the amount that would be in there is increased. So you're getting $55.4 million that you got last year, which if we don't do anything, that's level funding, if we don't do anything. But there's also factored in an additional $589,000, almost over $500,000, that would go into place July 1. So it would only be a $400,000 shortfall. So the committee that was put in place, of course, professional people coming back to the board, coming back to meeting with this committee would not change anything because we're not the professionals to go in and manipulate that formula. That has already been done by a group of professional people. We trust their judgment. They did it in Norfolk, they did it in Suffolk, they did it in Chesapeake, they did it in Virginia Beach. We have no problems anywhere until we get here. This is where we are as a body. Ann Seward wrote a very extensive letter to the city council, to the liaisons, on her, the work that she did, the professionalism that she saw. The presentation that she made is the same across all cities based on our revenue of input. Of course, Portsmouth, we're not a rich, don't have as much money as some of the other cities, but our formula is comprehensive based on what we have. And of course, previously, the school board funding that was allocated to record an additional $590,000 of local share. And after the presentation from the city assessor, of course, we talked about that the new estimated projection of the local share to the Portsmouth Public Schools would be between $750,000 to $900,000. And last April, there was a discussion regarding the increase in meal tax, which it wasn't supported, but we want to look at it again since we're entering our budget year, and we want to be able to pose that to you to see what you think about it. And just a 1% tax would give us 3.6 million, 2% would give us about 2.7 million, and a 3% tax would give us 4.8 million, which we are willing to give a portion of that to the Portsmouth Public Schools. So that's my comment as the education liaison. This is on our agenda to proceed, and we get that there was snow, there was inclement weather last week, and the school board was not able to meet. But we don't feel like any more discussion into this matter will change the formula that has been created by a committee of professional people. Mayor, that's my comments, and if there's any questions.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Glover.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. First of all, let me just share with you, when we decided as bodies, the council and the school board, to enter into this school funding formula, we decided to do that together. And when the information was posed to us, when the presentation was made to us 2 weeks ago, neither of the bodies had reviewed that proposal until that time. There are still outstanding questions that I have, and I know that members of our school board have, in regards to this funding formula. I agree it's a good first start. What I would like to see ideally is, as we go forward, that we take a moment to step back, regather ourselves, come together and discuss the issues that we have so that if we're going to get this funding formula right, we need to both be at the table to make sure that it's the best formula that we can deliver. One of the things I do want to add to that, Mayor, is we received a letter from the chair of the Portsmouth School Board asking us to give his team and his board a little more time and reconvene as a group, the council and the school board with the committee that put this together to address some of the concerns. And based on the timing, we've only had 2 weeks at this. I believe that it's reasonable and that it makes a lot of sense because at the end of the day, we're trying to work on building a trust here between both bodies. You all know the history of what we've been dealing with as it relates to school funding. So I'm prepared to give the school board that opportunity and the council members that opportunity to have another session to address those concerns. And what they were asking for, actually, that we meet as soon as possible, and then we could bring the recommendation before council on the March 10th council meeting. I do not believe that's unreasonable, so I'm going to be supporting the effort to table this matter until we can reconvene both the school board and the city council with the consultants and with the committee members, and then we can move forward on the March 10th council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We do have citizens who have signed up to join the discussion on this matter. This matter is agenda item 20-85, and we'll take those speakers now. The first speaker is Sergio Neal, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of council, and all of my Portsmouth neighbors here tonight. I'm quite sure you all know me. If you don't, my name is Sergio O'Neill. I live in Cavalier Manor. I just would like to say this. First of all, from the citizen standpoint, one of the questions that came to me was, how was this committee selected? Was it something that was advertised? Was it something that people got personal phone calls on? You know, how was that process work? Because I didn't know anything about a committee for this formula funding until very recently. So, I mean, I'm not disputing it one way or the other. I'm actually glad we had citizen input there. I'm glad Ms. Pittman was on that because I read her comments earlier. Some of the comments that she made was that what was discussed to them in that last meeting, on that committee, was not what's coming up now, which I find to be kind of disturbing, to say the least, because I want to make sure as a citizen that what's being said and what's supposed to happen is actually what happens. You know, formula funding is a great thing. I hope it does come to fruition. However, we don't want to play these games where one side doesn't know what the other side knows, and then people are left looking like a deer in headlights. And sometimes I feel like that this matter is personal, and I've said this before, no shade to anybody, school board or city council, but I really do feel like once it comes to education funding and in the city of Portsmouth, I feel like sometimes we take a little personal vendetta sometimes, or something is there that's saying, well, I don't like this person, or this person did this to me, so I'm going to do this to them. But what we fail to realize is that our children and our school system staff are caught in the middle of this stuff. Can you imagine what it would look like if our children knew that this is what their leaders do? Like they go back and forth and they nitpick and they bicker and they don't tell one side this and they don't tell one side that. Is that the type of representation that we want our kids to see? Because, man, I'm quite sure somebody's child is probably going to watch this video tonight. Because we do have kids that are learning about government. And I will hope that this is not the example that we're going to set. So I would ask you all to please table this matter until the next meeting so the school system can get a time to look at it, because I'm quite sure that whatever is said and done after this, they need to be aware of what's going on so they can make sure they have their dollars in the row. And you all know me. I'm quite sure everybody, especially on this council, knows. When I have a problem when it comes to the funding of our education, I speak to the school board as well as city council. The same stuff I would say to you all, I'm going to say to them as well. I hope when they get the information they need that they make the best decisions with whatever funding that they have. Because we can't keep playing this game when we have teachers not coming into the school system, into school systems anywhere like they need to. When our children are struggling for resources in the classroom so they can have the materials they need to learn what they need to learn to be the best productive citizens that they can be. We should not be in a space where we're constantly, somebody is saying, this person didn't say this person didn't say that, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. That seems to be the repetitive cycle here in this city. We just had a whole article to come out about this person said that, this person don't like. I don't get it. Like, we can't keep constantly being in this space. It should not take an act of God, but that's what it's looking like right now in order to get our council and school board to work together. I mean, I'm quite sure all of you all are very professional people. I have the highest respect for all of you all. When I've talked to you all personally, one-on-one, I have gotten nothing but positive feedback. I've got nothing, no negative. I've gotten feedback. I've gotten my questions answered. But I'm quite sure that the people on the other body would like that same respect. You all don't have to agree on everything. But one thing you can agree on is that if we don't get education right in this city, y'all can hang it up with economic development. That was a great presentation at the community meeting last week. However, you can hang it up if you think people are going to keep coming to Portsmouth and we're constantly having these struggles in education. Because guess what? Every new business that comes up with all of the new technologies and stuff that's coming out, they're going to need people to be able to work those systems. And those people start in our school system. But if they're not going to be able to learn because we're constantly struggling with funding and the resources they need, guess what? Those businesses are going to go other places. Me as a parent, I would take my child out of the school system if I felt like my child was in a school system that wasn't fully funded. Fortunately for me personally, I'm not in that situation. However, I have nieces and nephews that are in Portsmouth public schools that we have to constantly go through the same old stuff when I'm talking to their moms and dads about why they should stay in Portsmouth. Because half of them are ready to go. People are ready to go constantly because we're constantly having this struggle with education. And the same thing I'm telling you all, I'm going to tell the school board at the next meeting because we need to get this right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Claude Parent, and sir, you have 5 minutes. And Mr. Parent is our chairman of the school board.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas, members of the council, and City Manager Dr. Patton. I'm Claude Parent, and I am chairman of the school board. Earlier this afternoon, I requested a meeting with Mayor Rowe, and you received a copy of the letter that I sent you. We met at that time, and I asked for this item to be tabled tonight. Our first and only interaction with the formula came just 2 weeks ago at our joint meeting, where we found out that the proposed formula would, at most, give the division an extra $500,000, basically $589,000, as Vice Mayor has pointed out. Each year, the board comes to the city for additional financial assistance. Our needs are at least $1 million, if not multi-million-dollar request. Our joint meeting did not end in an agreement, but there was the suggestion of a meeting of our liaisons to work through the funding formula. At that time, you remember that the mayor suggested that the liaisons with the two people from our committee, 2 representatives and 2 from yours, that we would meet. Well, when we met, it was only the 4, the 2 Reverend Patella and myself and Mr. Clark and the vice mayor. I was at the meeting and I heard her say that this was the meeting was pretty good, but I have to say that it was a very contentious meeting. There was no talk. There was no talk of a meeting in the middle or identifying other opportunities. Basically, we were silent. It was silenced, and it was though that this plan was this is the way it was going to be all along. I have to say, though, I was still hopeful another meeting of the combined groups was coming, one we could talk through the formula. After all, it had only been a week since we had received the report. Now that all of us have had the chance to review it, we've had the opportunity to ask meaningful questions as combined board and council and make some changes. However, that hope was dashed yesterday when we found out that your agenda called for the vote on the proposed formula. You did not need the school board approval for this formula, and it's apparent that you don't particularly care if you have it. This is your city formula, and it has been that way from day one. We were told from the very beginning that both parties, both the city and the school board, must agree on the resolution that you have before you. However, I'm finding out that that was apparently not the case. So I shared with Mayor Rowe in our meeting this morning, or this afternoon, your formula is not fair to the schools, and it's not fair to our community, which shows over and over again their support for high-quality education and funding of our schools. You do not need to vote on this formula tonight. You can table it, allow the committee, allow the liaisons with the two representatives, which would be Dr. Jim Roberts and would be James Bridgeford. In this case, it would be
Gail Pittman and
Gail Pittman and
And
Mrs.
Michelle Woodhouse.
Woodhouse. We would come together, and we would either meet on the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th of March before the school board meets on the 5th, and work together, try to work this formula together so we don't rush into it, and then come back to you on the 10th with a recommendation. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that something this important needs to have thoughtful, we need to think through this and make sure that it's right, that it's correct. So I add to the chorus of people that have voiced their opinion that you as a council, please consider tabling this item and let us meet, because I think that if you don't, then you're basically saying to the city, we're not interested in what the school system has to say. We're going to go ahead and we're going to do this, and all you're going to get is $589,000, and that's the end of it. We have requirements under the standards of quality that we can't, I mean, we have no control over. The superintendent presented his
Sir, your time
budget
is
last
up.
night. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dr. Eli Bracy, the school superintendent. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, members of City Council, City Manager Dr. Patton. I'm Dr. Eli Bracy, Superintendent of Portsmouth Public Schools, and I'm here this evening to publicly share my concern over the vote tonight for the school funding formula. We began the conversations about the funding formula in good faith last year. Both you and our board understand the vast benefits of having a funding formula in place. We've seen the success of the funding formulas in our neighboring cities, and I believe that we are eager to eliminate the friction that comes between us each year during the budget season. However, almost immediately in the funding formula committee meetings, it was evident that the conversations were not going to allow for the committee to understand the division's needs. Repeatedly during the meetings, we were told we were not allowed to discuss specific funding formula figures. We were told we were there only to determine the guidelines and parameters for the formula, not to discuss the specific numbers. When the final percentage was presented to the committee, we had objections. Again, we were told that was not the time or place for that discussion. We were told that it was for the board and the council to discuss together. So we did that. We did have that initial discussion 2 weeks ago, and I think that we can all agree that it was a tense meeting and that we left without a consensus. Our liaisons met a week ago to discuss the formula, and that meeting was also described as a tense ending without a consensus. Yet, despite the obvious contention, we found out yesterday that tonight you were planning on voting on this funding formula. I will echo the comments of my board members who have reached out to you and asked that you delay tonight's vote until there's time that we can work better to find a solution for both of our organizations. I believe that we can still find a compromise that will support the school's needs as well as keeping the city's commitments and priorities in mind. However, if you do vote tonight, let me be clear. This formula has no support from any member of my administration, any member of the board, or any school representative who served on the funding formula committee. Passing this proposed formula tonight will not only meet the needs and goals that we set out to achieve, it will not meet the ever-growing needs of our school division. And that means that we're going to keep coming back to you. We're going to keep coming back, and we're going to keep coming back to you and asking you to support our students and our staff and our schools. Your vote tonight will not end our debate on school funding. It will simply be another tense chapter in the history. So let's wait. There's no rush. We have time and we have the passion. Let's make this formula worthwhile for us both. Let's find a way to work together and create something meaningful and effective for this city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Mark Gadolgi Otrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. I appreciate Councilmember Glover's comments earlier. I share his point of view on each point that he raised, and I would like to make some other points. I want to underscore what he said without using the word relationship, that what you do by passing this resolution over the objections of your partner body, the school board, will be damaging to the relationship that you seemed last year to be striving to improve and to heal. Because it represents an imposition of your will on your partner in this endeavor. So it's a totally wrong-headed approach. I find fault with the formula as it was presented. Although I was not at that meeting, I have reviewed the video of those proceedings. And I see only a codification, if you will, of the status quo. So you have formalized in a funding proposal essentially what you have been doing traditionally. That was not my expectation when you talked about a funding formula. If the development of that formula did not, as Dr. Bracey says, and which I believe, did not take into account the actual needs of the school system, but it was a mathematical exercise to provide you with something convenient to use, then it really wasn't worth the time put into it. It was my hope when you announced the initiative that you would look at the needs that were supported by facts and data. So this to me is just a railroad operation and a rubber stamp operation, okay? We've checked the blocks. Funding formula, check. We like it, check. School board doesn't like it, par for the course, check. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. And I don't think that works for the other citizens in this community who have wanted to see a rational system for allocating funding to the most important activity that this system does. To me, education is first and foremost, and everything follows thereafter. So my final point here is please do not table this motion. Major Robert has been rolling over in his grave, I'm sure, every time you misuse that parliamentary procedure function. Defer it, please. If you read the manual, you will see, well, I hope you will see, that you have been misusing table when you should be using defer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Anthony Hines, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lucas Burke, members of City Council. I stand before you tonight for you to take a hard look at what we're doing here and to stop and look at what was presented by a very good group of people. Ann Seward, I think very highly of her. I think she's one of the finest people that I've ever worked with in my past. But this is fresh information for pretty much every person in the city. This should be fresh information for you. A group that's going to appropriate $55+ million. This is going to be your guide in perpetuity almost so you're going to make this your funding formula going forward. And 2 weeks just doesn't do it justice. These people worked months on putting this together, and quite frankly, the people we elected as citizens should be weighing in on this. They should not be rubber stamping any group. The city manager, the superintendent, we didn't elect any of them. We elected you to work together as these two bodies. And quite frankly, this action is not building consensus. And I've been fortunate to work with a number of capacities, thankful for the opportunities to work on boards and commissions given by this council. And I've learned some lessons about building consensus. And quite frankly, this is not building consensus. This is basically one body taking a recommendation from a group that the citizens know nothing about, truly about their qualifications. But they trusted you on election day to make these decisions. They trusted you guys and the school board to make the best decision for 90,000 people. So I encourage you to take the information, take the data, take the information there and work together. This doesn't have to even be made on March the 10th. This is something that should be looked at and really studied, because I really believe that this is a good way forward for these two bodies to begin work. But I just ask that you take the time, work with them, and I'm not going to say even about the liaisons. I believe that both bodies in their entirety owe this to their city to work together and work upon the good start that's already happened here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Ted Lamb, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Lisa Lucas Burke, and members of City Council. My name is Ted Lamb. I live at 301 Allen Road. I will not be taking all of my 5 minutes this evening, because what I've got to say, I can say it shorter than 5 minutes. But I am asking that the item number 2085, the formula funding vote, that it would be tabled or deferred, and that the instructions that were set down or set forth by Mayor Rowe and now complemented by Councilman Glover this evening, that those instructions that was set down February 10th, a meeting between the school board and the city council, that they would be followed through, and that both bodies themselves will be able to have the time to thoroughly look through this and to be able to discuss it. After all, it is something that's important. It's something that's going to follow most of us well beyond our time sitting there, or even on the school board side as well. Thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. That concludes all the citizens that have signed up to speak. We're still in our discussion mode. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Indeed, everybody has made some important points about having a formula for funding for the school system. And the point is, and that we've heard a lot about unfunded mandates and all those kinds of things, and the fiscal responsibility lies here on this table. And fiscal responsibility is not just about schools. I can look over this side of the room and see 50-odd people who are either elected or employees or passionate about schools. I can look on this side of the room and see 50-odd of Portsmouth's finest in blue. And in between are a whole nother set of employees and water treatment and stormwater management and school buildings that need work, and a new city hall, and a home for our public safety people, and a jail, and the list goes on and on and on. And so for me, there's no point in me sitting down and studying this funding formula in a deeper level, because I'm not an education specialist, nor am I a CPA. That, to me, that's why we put the folks we put on that committee. The residents that were put on that committee, to your question, Mr. Neal, we handpicked because of their expertise in education. From the city council side, it was Gail Pittman and Dr. Woodhouse from TCC, experts in their field who volunteered to be a part of that committee. So if they had come back and told me the number was 30.2 or 38.6 or 50 point whatever, it is what it is. I'm not here to argue that. But I know we have a certain amount of money and we got to get a lot of things done with it. And a lot of things won't get done. And the buck stops here with making that choice. And I'm prepared to make that choice. I think that's what the voters elected me to do.
We have a motion on the floor. We're in the discussion mode. Any further discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? We're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries. We are now at item 20-86, report on pending items. Dr. Patton?
Yes, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, Mrs. Bernadette Hogue will come forward with a report back from our last meeting.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I'd like to give you the report on the non-agenda speakers. There were 5 non-agenda speakers. 1 speaker required action by staff. On February 12th, Carl Jackson, Manager of Transportation Planning, spoke with Mr. Mayano regarding his concerns expressed to City Council about installing bike logos, also known as bike sharrows, on High Street. Mr. Jackson shared that the city has sharrows on portions of High Street between Chestnut Street and Mount Vernon Avenue, which connects to 4 miles of on-street facilities leading to Churchland via the West Norfolk Bridge. This route is currently a safer alternative than using the entirety of High Street, pending replacement of the Churchland Bridge, which will include a path for cyclists. Mr. Mayano received information about future projects, such as the construction of the Portsmouth Rail to Trail in Churchland between West Norfolk Road and the Chesapeake City line. Mr. Maiano was encouraged to join the city's ongoing bike planning efforts and was invited to the next Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee meeting on February 27th. He was also provided a link to the draft bike and presentation plan. That concludes my report.
Any questions of Mrs. Hall? None. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Simmons. Maybe I was late or too quick. Do you wish to speak on 2085 or 2086?
Items submitted by council members.
You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Ongoing in the city in the next couple of days, to remind you, some events were rescheduled last week because of the weather. In chronological order, this coming Thursday, the Fraternal Order Police will hold their second annual spaghetti lunch. I went last year, can vouch that it's quite tasty. It will be held from 11:30 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at the Ambassador Club on London Boulevard. They're charging $9 a plate for adults and $5 for children, and it includes spaghetti and a salad and a drink, and you can take a takeout order. If you're not too full of spaghetti that evening, the rescheduled Portsmouth History Commission celebration in honor of our city's historical writers and living landmarks will be held from 5 to 7 at Roger Brown's. Again, that's Thursday, the 27th. And we'll be honoring Dr. Robert Brooks Albertson, Marshall Butt, Dean Burgess, Mae Breckenridge Haywood, and Dr. Cassandra Newby Alexander. The rescheduled Census 2020 Town Hall meeting will be Monday, March the 8th, from 6:30 to 8 at the Portsmouth Social Services Building. It will be an interactive community engagement opportunity, creating awareness about the 2020 census and reminding everyone about the app for your phone, Portsmouth Connect, where you can get information, particularly as it regards meetings, agendas, and an alert center should we have more inclement weather. And that's all, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. We're now at item 2087, non-agenda speakers. And Madam Clerk, will you read the protocol again, please?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. All remarks shall be directed to the City Council as a body rather than any particular member of City Council, staff, or audience, and should be limited to matters that only the Portsmouth City Council can influence. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Our first speaker is Bracy Parr, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of City Council, as well as Dr. Patton. My name is Bracy Parr, no relationship to the superintendent. I am a resident at 11 Afton Parkway in Craddock. I am a member of the Craddock Business Association as well as the Civic League, but not here speaking on behalf of them. I have 2 issues that I'd like to present before you. One is the George Washington Skate Park. I know that there are plans to possibly move the fire station from its current location in Afton Square to that property. I do believe that public safety is our top priority in Portsmouth, but I want a win-win for the community with the movement of that skate park equipment if it is the eventual location of the new fire department building, either in Afton Square, in the Paradise Creek Nature Park, or any other situation. That equipment was very expensive. Hard Times Skate Shop is located in Afton Square and I think depends on some of the patronage from skateboarders who go to that facility. And I live just a block from it, and I can tell you every Saturday and Sunday when it is sunny, there are 20 to 30 kids from sun up till sundown. It is a wonderful facility. I really urge us to get together and sort out a win-win. I've scoured the notes from past council meetings. I haven't been able to find anything on any updates. I know there was an engineering survey, so I would respectfully ask to communicate whatever is happening to the Civic League, the Craddock Civic League, as well as the Craddock Business Association. My second agenda item is discussion of the casino. I just left the Black History Month celebration at James Hurst Elementary. It was a beautiful celebration, and it really brought to mind how currently Native Americans in the United States receive benefits from the reservations and the casinos that they are allowed to build. Here in Portsmouth, I think we have a really ripe opportunity to correct some racial wrongs, things that have been done in history, and also seek somehow to make this casino, with all the benefits that it brings, to really work for the citizens of Portsmouth, and particularly African Americans here in Portsmouth, just as it will benefit the Pamunkey tribe if that casino comes to Norfolk. I know the referendum may be coming up later this year, but just as you are planning and you are considering that, please have that in the back of your mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Von Trail Morris, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Dr. Pat, City Council. My name is Von Trail Morris, and I am a native here of Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm also a professional musician. What I do is I run an organization called the Portsmouth Jazz Experience. We have about 1,200 followers that follow us. And whenever we have an event, which is mostly jazz or blues, they come and they participate. For the last 14 months, we've been here in the city of Portsmouth. We went from Roger Brown's to the Renaissance Hotel. I also promote the Stellar Bar and Gosport. Right now, we are looking to expand. I'm working with Mr. Keith Toller, and what we're doing in June is we're going to have a small festival every Wednesday at the Courtyard. That hasn't been decided just yet, but it is very much almost definite, and we're looking forward to it. Given everything that's going on in this city right now, and we all wanted to see everything work out, I believe our program would influence everyone to come to the city of Portsmouth. Our mantra is, we bring the community together one note at a time, as far as music, if anybody is interested in that. We are family friendly. We do promote togetherness without saying it. We just promote it. And I just came here tonight to formally introduce myself to you and ask for your support. And that's pretty much all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Jack Bray, and you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Assistant Mayor, City Manager, and Councilman. What I want to talk about was really, first of all, I want to compliment our City Manager, because I have been taking the pilot for a lot of years, and I have never seen anybody get 2.5 pages in the Virginia pilot. And I do believe that Anna Levi is somebody we need to get to know. I don't know if that name rings a bell, but she's the one that wrote the article. Because if she can get 2.5 pages in the Virginia pilot on the city of Portsmouth, I think the economic development group needs to talk to her. And in seriousness about that, I think Ms. Simmons said something about, we only have so much money, and we got to figure out where it goes, and it's fiscal responsibility. So what I think is, as a person that was in real estate for 27 years in Tyward and not much in Portsmouth, though I love Portsmouth, I've been here since 2004. My name is Jack Bray. I live on Maryland Avenue in the Port Norfolk area. I think that what I'd like to see happen, if it was possible, is to find ways that we could spur through incentives that the economic development people could make a whole heck of a lot of money if they'd get some of these vacant buildings rented. I don't care what you do. I mean, if I was running the show, I'd say, hey, look, you get that rented, we're going to have a sliding scale, this is what you're going to get. And I don't care if they make $500,000 a year. I mean, whatever it is. You do with the incentives to get these people to promote these businesses and get them in there and have contests, whatever you have to do. I just think that we got a lot of business, and if we see that this city can use a certain business, whether it's a dry cleaning business, a bakery, some musical entertainment. I think music, like that lady said, is a big draw to our city. All type of people that could be mentoring, having training programs, all those kind of things. But I do think that we need to get these small businesses to come to Portsmouth. They need a break, and if other cities aren't giving them a break, find out what they are doing to give them a break, and let's give them something better. Let's give them not only something better, let's give those small businesses a lot better incentive to get here in Portsmouth. Come on, we got to look at the income stream. You know, of course we can look at expenses, but that's hard to get that down. But I tell you what, as a realtor that did a great job in the business, I'm not bragging, but I was in it for 27 years. I better have done something. I'm just saying, you know what? I know we can do better on this income stream, and I believe the economic development group should make a report here at City Council on a monthly basis to tell us how they're doing. I mean, we just have to push that incentive to get something out there, and what are we doing? I think the public deserves it. There's too many businesses that are going out of business, and how about the businesses that are coming into business? We need to get this Anna, whatever her name is, Lay, to promote and let her know this is what just opened up on the corner of London and so-and-so. You know, we've had new businesses here. Let's people know. We got to get the word out, folks, that new businesses are coming here. The general public doesn't know it. I don't think. I don't know it. So I do, Dr. Patton, I applaud you on your marketing ability. And I also say this too. I hope that the council will try to look at the differences on this issue and see what we can do to try and give us a better forward motion on this, working with our city manager, and what's got to be corrected. Let's get it corrected. And I also want to thank those people that are coming off. John Rowe, I thank you for what you've been doing. I hope that we got something in line to have 2 or 3 people to replace you. No, I'm just kidding. But whatever it is to replace you, and an assistant, because, you know, I mean, I know his history. I'm just saying, I think we're still fortunate on whichever side of the fence you're on to have him as a city manager in Portsmouth. And this lady over here, Ms. Simmons, I thank you for what you do. And whatever happens, I do think that we should look at each other across this board, and I should not see color. It should not see color. I should be looking across, and I can see these people have certain positions. That's their issue. That's what Mr. Clark's issue is, Ms. Burke, and I know you're in a tough situation. I do want to say one thing about Mom. Our senator is, when you label somebody crazy and wild, that's just not good. I mean, she's a senator. She's highly thought of, and I'm not putting anything on you, of course. You know, I appreciate the position you're in, how sensitive it is. But I do think that we need to attack the issues, and when we get into the article in these papers that these people, whoever we are, we deal with the issues and not personalities. I know I'm at fault a lot of times, and I do exactly what I'm telling you not to do. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Sergeant Major Clyde Toller. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. Portsmouth's proud. Ms. Simmons, you need to come down here and get with me. You know how Mayor Wright, you said we were profiling. Don't we look good tonight? Okay. I want to say to the mayor, vice mayor, members of council, Dr. Patton, also Ms. White's staff, and the good sign on, the day make 1 year since I've been here the last time. But I come before you tonight, and I'm going to say this. I hear all these people come up here to my people leaving Portsmouth. They don't like it and all. Why don't they leave? I don't see the people that's leaving coming up here saying I'm leaving because you this and that. And another thing, when you have a meeting, you and the school board, go over there and fight it out in the room over there. And when you come out here with this. We solved our problem. And then you won't get the people out here misunderstood of what's going on and all. So if you settle that in there and come out here and say, we have solved the problem, I go along with you 100%. But it's a lot of disrespect from the school board. Yeah, I said, Look how they got them walked out of here. Look, if you're going to do something, come in here and argue all the time, let's stay here and do something good for the city. If you don't like the city, leave it. I'm not going nowhere. I'm Portsmouth proud. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm too old to go anywhere there, but I ain't too old to speak and say what I got to say. And Dr. Patton, this racist mess, all that mess was in the paper, hold your head up and don't even listen to that mess, because half of it ain't nothing but water under the bridge. I've been knowing you a long time, and you too, Mayor Rowe, before. Hey, it's nothing racist about you. A lot of people, they racist is because you make too much money, and they don't. That's what it is. But anyway, it's nice being here, and I'm going to load a boom on you tonight. I'm going to tell you something. I am running for city council. I'm running as a candidate write-in. And don't put down there Snow White or nothing, or Murray Poppy, because, look, I'm a man, ain't, you know. But I want you to write my name in as Clyde A. Toller, Tolerclyd, A like an apple, okay? But I'm running for city council. I told you that, Councilman Glover. And I know some bad things about the city need to be done and all, but I'm not going to bring that and air this up here, because everybody in Norfolk, Virginia Beach is looking at us. And when you come up here and down your own city like this, they looking at you, and people say, they worse off than we are. But you come up here and you cut the city down and all, I want you to leave. Hey, just pack your things and leave. Because I don't see the people that hate this city coming up here arguing about anything. But look, when I run, I want you to vote for me. And here's what. Do not give me no money or anything. Just write my name in. Because if you give me money, I got to have a campaign manager and I got to report to all this. I don't need none of that. And all you policemen here in blue, you need to stand up and let the people see how you are here tonight. Stand up. Let everybody see you. This is great. This is great. And I'm glad, I am very glad that they are here, because look, we up on the 6th floor. So I'm glad to see them here. But let's have a nice campaign and meet with that school board. I've been coming a long time. And then they'll leave the school board and then run for council and come up here and sit up here on the council. Hey, I'm saying this, you come off school board, don't put them on council. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. My presentation tonight is about the financial affairs of the city. Let's review what has just happened tonight regarding money. The Department of Parks and Recreation will be receiving over $7,000 for meals and snacks. The money is coming from the Department of Agriculture, Child and Adult Care Food Program, and is administered through the Department of Education. This is a lot of money to be feeding children and adults in Portsmouth. Why aren't we growing our own food? Next, the local probation and pretrial services will be receiving about $2,000 from the Department of Criminal Justice Services. Next, $70,000 will be taken from the Office of Emergency Medical Services Grant Fund budget, and also money will be taken from the Information Technology Fund budget for the required local match to make $140,000 that will go to the Office of Emergency Medical Services. Next, over $100,000 will be given to the city's Social Service Fund from the Virginia Department of Social Service for foster care. Next, $85,000 is given to the city's Social Services Department from the Virginia Department of Social Service to facilitate adoptions. Now, let's look at the results of the PPIC meeting this morning. There was a report that $500,000 grant will be given from the Port Host Communities Revitalization Fund to Portsmouth. Next, there will be another announcement regarding how well financially the port has done last year. Next, there was a report about the improvement of 3925 Burton Point Navy Southgate Annex update and announcing about the investment. How has all this money and investments come together to make Portsmouth financially stable? The shame of it is our organizational structure of the city is broken. This broken structure has caused Portsmouth to be financially unstable, even with all these donations from the state and local areas. The broken structure of the city prevents people from communicating with one another to get a job done, the job of management of the people's money. Did anyone notice how all the presentations regarding money at the work session didn't come together as a unified whole? One presentation reported the revenue at the end of January was $107 million, and the expenditures are $144 million, and that leaves $37 million in revenue to be gotten within 6 months. Another report read, expenditures include encumbrances of $9.3 million. The Human Resource Director reported an increase of $9.6 million in compensation. Another report listed the financial pressure for the year 2021 with a projected expenditure increase of over $5,000. And the projected revenue for the year 2021, I may have that wrong, for over $4 million, which equals $9 million. The budget driver's presentation last page showed how much money an increase in taxation would be for 1 cent, 2 cents, and 3 cents, and I just learned it's for a meal tax. So are we the people looking at a tax rate increase because of the poor financial management of the city? Look at the wasting of money with the lawsuits. Look at the wasted money at the demolition of city property. Another wasted money project is the one spent on rehabbing a rental property for the police. Also, the wasted money paying $530,000 for a building lease. All this wasted money could have been applied to city property, the civic center, to make it suitable for the police, fire, and sheriff's administrative offices. Because of the lack of communication, it has created a financial burden for the people. And let's do a review. There's about $56 million that is needed by June 30, 2020. Then the report for the year 2021 needs to add over $9 million to the budget. Because of the lack of structure, communication has been missing and has shown up as a deficit of the
Ma'am, your time
people's
is
money.
up.
And
Ma'am.
I'm through.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Ronald White. And, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Vice Mayor,
Will you speak to the mic, please?
City Manager, City Council members, and citizens. My name is Ronald White. I'm President of the Portsmouth Fraternal Order of Police, Gosport Lodge 20. We're here to bring your attention the significant issues regarding staffing in the police department and what we believe is the primary cause, compression and pay for officers. In 2019 alone, the police department lost 48 officers. In the previous 6 years, the average number of officers lost was 27 a year. This is a 77% increase in the number of lost officers. As of this meeting, we have lost 7 officers in 2020. The police department has authorized 259 total officers. We currently have 180 deployable. To clarify what a deployed officer is, they're officers able to work the streets in full capacity. There are 27 officers and recruits that are on modified assignment or currently in training. Although they count towards the 259 total officer number, they are not included in the 180. As of today, the police department is at a critical officer shortage at 52 vacancies. You guys stand up if you're a police officer. That's 42 officers standing behind me. Add the 10 of you up there, that's 52. That's what we're missing in the department. Thank you. The vast majority of these officers left for other departments that offered a signing bonus, better pay, credit for their years in service,
a consistent pay plan that they could count on for the remaining years of their careers. In 2009, the City Council approved a pay plan that addressed the pay compression as well as created a step plan to create a mechanism for the officer to move up in the pay scale. Unfortunately, the City Councils in the following years failed to uphold that commitment and only approved one step increase in 2012. In 2019, the City Council approved a budget that authorized the elimination of the pay step plan and reverted back to a salary schedule that contained a minimum, mid, and maximum grade pay, but no way for the employee to progress through the scale. Some of you were on City Council when the pay plan was adopted, and when the City Council, in some capacity since, many on the City Council came to the FOP asking for the organization's endorsement in the past and most recently 2019. All of you that did all stated that correcting the pay compression issues would be an issue that you were willing to correct. Now is the time to uphold your commitment to these men and women that serve every day. Over the past several years, violent crime in the city has consistently gone up. In 2019, there were 3 homicides by February 11th. There have been 4 homicides by February 11th of 2020, and as of this reading, there's been an additional. In 2019, there were 7 gunshot wound incidents between January 1st and February 11th. In 2020, there have been 15. There were 24 robbery incidents between January 1st and February 11th of 2019, and in 2020, we're at 37. The increase in crime statistics are directly related to the staffing deficiencies and limited number of officers available to respond and investigate your crimes. The city has consistently asked the department to do more with less for as long as any of us can remember. The men and women of the Portsmouth Police Department are doing all they can do with the limited staffing resources to have a positive effect on crime, but they are getting burned out. On a daily basis, patrol shifts are short-staffed, and detectives assigned to specialized units are required to backfill patrol to boost the numbers, and that puts them behind in their own investigations. The department is having to rob Peter to pay Paul on a daily basis, and it's taken an effect on the officers. As a result, crime and response times have increased, and the number of officers and detectives available to answer calls and investigate cases has greatly decreased. Because of all I've mentioned, the city of Portsmouth has not become a safer city. Quite the contrary. We want to be clear, these are not problems anyone in the police department can fix, not even our chief, who we stand behind and support 100%. We want to be clear, the only people that can fix these issues are you, the members of City Council, the city manager, and the city executive staff. Rest assured, the men and women of the police department will continue to serve all of its communities at the best of their abilities. We want all citizens to work and live in a safe community. The city of Portsmouth has an obligation to its citizens to ensure proper pay and compensation of its police department, which will in turn ensure proper staffing levels. None of us got into this to become rich. We just want the opportunity to provide for our families and build a better life just like each one of you. The only way to do this is to address significant pay compression issues within the department, as well as create some form of pay plan that will allow for the officers.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Godalgi-Otrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. Primary elections are generally low turnout affairs. If you are a citizen who is eligible to vote, the Super Tuesday primary on March the 3rd is quite significant. It's not a time to stay home. And
sir, how does this relate to what we can?
You, as members of council, are people of influence in this community. I ask each of you to encourage your friends and neighbors and followers to participate in the primary. What happens in Washington, D.C. has a major impact on the well-being of every state, territory, commonwealth in our country, and every locality. So it is important that the voice of the citizens be heard loudly and clearly. The State Board of Elections has posted a list of the candidates who will be running in the Super Tuesday primary. For the first time, the Commonwealth of Virginia will be a participant. 14 states and American Samoa will have the opportunity to be heard. There are 14 candidates, 6 of whom...
Sir, excuse me.
Sir?
I have a point of order. We're a nonpartisan body here, and please address things that only we, City Council, can influence.
Yes, sir. I would say that if you have friends and neighbors, that you as citizens have the right, the freedom of speech to encourage them to vote in the primary if they are so inclined. If they are averse,
Please, again, stay germane to subjects that we can influence.
I've stated my case.
Thank you, sir. This completes our agenda. We do have a need for a closed session. Is there a motion?
Yes, sir. I have it, Mr. Mayor. I move to go into closed meeting pursuant to A, Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711A.7 for the purpose of consultation with legal counsel pertaining to actual or probable litigation where such consultation in open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the city, specifically regarding Michael A. Moore versus the City of Portsmouth, Portsmouth Circuit Court case numbers 19003403, 19003277, and 1900448811, and Integrated Management Group, LLC versus City of Portsmouth, Portsmouth Circuit Court case number 19002742, and B, Virginia Code subsection 2.2-3711 for the purpose of discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where, if made publicly, initially the financial interests of the governmental unit would be adversely affected, specifically regarding recreational facilities.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? We'll do this electronically. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. We are going into closed session. We'll go into the council conference room. Once we come out of closed session, we'll come back out, not in this chamber, but in the council conference room to do our certification. And then after that, we'll adjourn. Thank you for your attendance tonight.